Jason Clare now, the Shadow Communications Minister. Jason Clare, this efficiency study announced by Malcolm Turnbull, he says it's a routine responsibility of government to ensure that the ABC and SBS use public resources as efficiently as possible. Isn't that an appropriate thing to do?
Well, Kieran, I've got no problem at all with driving efficiency in government departments. We should do that in every government department. But that's not what this is about. This is about trust. The night before the election, Tony Abbott said there'd be no cuts to the ABC. This is about cutting the budget of the ABC. If they don't cut the budget of the ABC, I'll eat my hat. This is all about providing some form of excuse to cut the ABC's budget.
He said there'd be no cuts. This is an efficiency study. If he takes it to the next election, that's not a broken promise, is it?
Well, let's see what they do in the budget. What I'm predicting is that they'll cut the ABC's budget and they'll use this as an excuse to do it. If they're not going to do that, then the efficiencies that they find in this report should be used to invest back into the ABC to deliver more services to the Australian people. The point I'm making here is Tony Abbott campaigned for years about honesty in government. If you say one thing before an election, you've got to do it. Now he's Prime Minister and he's breaking promises on debt, on boats. He's broken his promise to build the NBN by 2016. And you can bet your bottom dollar, come the budget, they'll cut the ABC's budget. And that's important because before the election he said he wouldn't do it. It means if he does that, that you can't believe anything the Prime Minister says.
Yeah, but there is an if on that. And you mentioned the boats and these broken promises. Labor's been doing that quite a bit. But what is the broken promise on boats? There's been no boat for 6 weeks, and as confirmed to me this morning by Scott Morrison, this suggestion that there are broken promises everywhere, isn't it incumbent on Labor to pinpoint what you're talking about?
I hate to remind you, how many boats have they bought back? Before the election they promised to buy back boats from Indonesia. They haven't bought any back. And part of the problem here is the unnecessary secrecy. There's some good news that boats haven't been coming in January. It's a good thing because people aren't drowning. And it's happening because of the arrangement we set up with Papua New Guinea. You can tell that by what our officials are being told on the ground in Indonesia by people seeking to come by boat, and also the fact that people are now going home from Manus Island. They've got the message. If you come here by boat, you won't end up in Australia, you'll go to Papua New Guinea, and they're going home. That's a good thing. That's a good thing, but there's no need for all the secrecy.
But they're turning back boats as well. You're claiming credit for the PNG deal, but surely towing back boats is a pretty good signal as well, isn't it? That,
well, the first question
as to where the government stands?
Kieran, the first question is, what are they actually doing? You know, it's a simple question. One, are you turning back boats? Yes or no? And two, how many have you turned back? And the government won't answer those questions. The second point I'd make is this. When you start going down that path, you run into trouble with your relationship with our nearest neighbour, Indonesia, and we've seen evidence of that. And there's always the risk that people get hurt, particularly our Navy personnel. That's what I worry about. It's happened in the past and no doubt it'll happen in the future.
The Labor Party's been critical of statements Tony Abbott made this week on 2GB when he spoke to Ray Hadley, but the coalition's not the only one that can be sensitive to media coverage, is it? When you look at what Labor did in government, Stephen Conroy put forward a whole series of reforms, including a new watchdog, because he didn't like some of the media coverage he was copying.
Yeah, well, Kieran, my view on this, for what it's worth, is pretty simple. We've got a free press. Sometimes they get it right, sometimes they get it wrong. You've just got to get on and do your job as best you can. I think what the Prime Minister showed this week is he's got a bit of a glass jaw. And my message to him is just get on and do your job. Take a spoonful of cement and harden up. The media is not always going to say what you want, but that's the beauty of Australia. We're a free country with a free media.
You'd offer the spoonful to Stephen Conroy then, I guess?
Well, I think all politicians just need to accept that sometimes you're going to get a round of applause, sometimes you're going to get attacked. Just get on and do your job. If you're in it for the applause, you're in the wrong job.
Shadow Communications Minister Jason Clare, appreciate it.
Good on you. Thanks, mate.